Alrighty, thank you so much to everyone for joining and welcome. An official welcome to our youth-led Air Aware campaign, where we share inputs about air pollution, discover the impact of air pollution and how it affects young people and what young people can do to take action and to be at the forefront of this issue. During our soft launch, which some of you were a part of, I posed a question which I'll ask once again of how bad do things have to get until we act? And now we're seeing so many young people and so many people present who are actually taking heed to this and who are speaking up more and more about this. And I believe that's definitely a lot of progress in terms of also us realizing that a lot of the constitutional rights that we have related to equality, equity, and environmental rights is very pinnacle to the conversation of air pollution. And you'll all see that as well with the speakers that we have present and the work that they've also done in terms of mitigating that, right? And making sure that there are many young people, including those in the session, who know very well that it is their constitutional right to have a breathable environment and one that speaks to their well-being and promotes it, right? And an environment that is great for our future generations as well. So for that, I just want to thank you all, and I invite you to engage also with the chats that we're going to be putting, with the questions that we're going to be putting in the chat box. We encourage you all to engage and to participate. And with that, just digging into like our program as a whole, my name is Mponya Mate. I am the Youth Programs Associate here at the South African Institute of International Affairs. And just a background of what we do before we start digging in and before I hand over to our esteemed program manager to kickstart our introduction is a big part of what we do is getting young people involved, whether it's gender, whether it's climate, and just getting young people to raise their voices and to look around their surroundings and to be vocal about what they like and what they don't like about the world that they're living in, because there's nothing about us without us as young people, right? And we've had so many programs and so many initiatives, roadshows across the board that does this, whether it's us coming together, creating a youth policy statement on the NHI bill or the Bella bill or immigration policies, or us coming together to make a statement for COP29 and presenting it to the minister. So we really make it our mission to make sure that young people are at the forefront of all decision making, because our young people, today's young people, are tomorrow's leaders, and we really amplify that in everything that we do. Hence the passion, hence the excitement, and hence all of these wonderful initiatives, bringing so many issues that affect young people to the forefront, especially in underserved communities, which Abulelo is going to also touch up on in terms of her opening. But just basically that as an overview for what we do. So with that, I encourage you to engage, to speak up, to be part of the change that you want to be, and to advocate not only for yourself, but people who can't join us in this session in underserved communities who don't have air that is good for them, people who struggle with health impacts, whether it's in Mpumalanga or Limpopo or, you know, the city areas, whether it's the young, the elderly, the infants. Let's use today to learn about what air pollution means, how it affects us as young people, and how we can act. So with that, I don't want to drag this too long to out. I give the space to Abulele, the floor to Abulele for her to kickstart the session. So yeah, Abulele, the floor is yours. Thank you to our program manager.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abulele Mkhwetyana, and I am the Youth Program Manager at SAYA. Can everybody hear me? Just checking.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks, guys. So, Kath, have you ever wondered what role you as the youth can play in addressing air quality concerns in your community? Well, Youth at Saya, in joint partnership with Airway, is virtually launching a nationwide campaign that aims to create public awareness, particularly among young people, 13 to 25 of ages, about air pollution issues in their communities. This partnership seeks to empower young people to take daily actions that improve air quality while demanding air quality actions from a myriad of stakeholders. So thousands of youth in Mpumalanga are battling with chronic bronchitis due to the poor air quality in the mining affected communities. The poor air quality in Johannesburg is exacerbated by industrial plants, road transport, and the mismanagement of waste. So we invite you as the youth to be enablers of change and to drive demand for air quality management. We are ready to dive in together to explore what breathable cities should look like throughout South Africa. So we hope that this program today brings awareness to that and helps you learn, and hopefully you will join us in this journey of a breathable city together. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Abulele. I hope you can see me. I don't know if the video is still active. Yes, it is. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Abulele. What a wonderful opening and just, scene setting, contextual building for what we're really trying to do and just how we want to get young people involved, how we want to hear youth voices. We want to hear from you. And this is a wonderful platform to do so. In the chat box, during the upcoming Q&As, we have a set of amazing speakers who are so accomplished and who are so passionate and recognized across the board, whether in civil society or academia, for their passion and for their commitment to making our cities more breathable. It's important that we learn from them, discover the impacts from them, and move in such a way where we take inspiration and move also in such a way where we just put ourselves in a position to just act and be part of the change. So with that, I want to bring us to the next part of our session, where we're going to be having a very informative, insightful presentation from the esteemed Dr. Raisa Muila, who is a lecturer at Wits University. Just wanted to check if Dr. Raisa has been able to join us. If you are here, kindly just raise your hand. I see Zetu's raised your hand. Zetu, you may come through.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'm just reacting to the message in the chat. I think the schools are struggling to hear a bit. So can I just ask the speakers to please just project a bit louder because they are in a classroom, if that's possible. Thanks, Paul.
Of course. Yes, with that, I just encourage everyone, especially our speakers, to project, to speak boldly, to speak proudly, especially because we're speaking with young people from different settings, different environments, some joining from classes, so on and so forth. So yeah, we just ask that you project and that you assist our young people in that regard. So yeah, with that, I was just calling on our first speaker, Dr. Raisa. If you are here, kindly just lift up your hand so we can call you to the forefront. I don't think she is here though. Yeah, I do not see her as part of the list. So I'm going to ask that we potentially move to our next speaker, and then I'll just be getting in contact with our esteemed Dr. Raisa. With that, I'm going to call on Sibusiso. Sibusiso, are you here? Could you kindly react if you have joined the session, just to make sure if you're present here with us. Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sibusiso. So Sibusiso is such an accomplished young person from the African Climate Alliance. And as part of the introduction, I'm just going to read Sibusiso's bio. Many of you have come across in our Meet the Speakers. We've also been running an extensive social media campaign to just keep everyone who's in the room here informed about what we're doing. So to basically proudly introduce Sbusiso is basically to say that he is a passionate climate change activist, youth leader, and honors graduate in atmospheric science at the University of Cape Town. With over 5 years of experience driving impactful campaigns, Sbusiso has worked at the intersection of research, policy advocacy, and community engagement to promote climate justice. As a campaigner with the African Climate Alliance, Sbusiso has led a task force of young leaders to design and implement innovative campaigns, including workshops, educational resources, and media advocacy that have reached thousands of South Africans. They have also represented youth perspectives on prominent platforms such as the Big Debate on SABC and contributed to high-level climate negotiations, including COP27 and COP26. And this is just a snapshot of some of Sbusiso's accolades and passions that translate into environmental injustice. It's a great honor to have Sbusiso here to just let us know how young people can use policy to make an impact on air pollution in South Africa. So with that, Sbusiso, I give the floor over to you. Kindly make use of your 10-minute slot. And I hope that you all learn from Sbusiso so much because he is truly such a passionate human being, especially with regards to matters of environmental injustice. So with that, Sbusiso, I yield the floor to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mpho. I hope you can hear and see me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yes, thank you so much for that introduction, that very warm introduction. I appreciate it. And good afternoon to everyone that is joining the session. It is an honor to be here with you today, with all the young people that are in the session, all the young people that are still in school, but also still took the time to join the session. I think you guys are amazing, and I hope you can still hear me, especially in the classrooms as well. And we're all together in this space today, and hopefully, we can all get to know each other better, and get to know the work that each of us are doing, and maybe how we can even support each other, because I think that's so important. Support and building community in this space, particularly if you want to have an impact. Being part of a community is the biggest thing that you can do in order to make a meaningful and significant impact. So I was invited here today by Mpho and the wonderful team at Aya to just share a bit more around how young people or how policy particularly can make a change, can make significant changes in the policy space. The probing question that I got was how can young people use policy in order to make an impact on air pollution in South Africa? And so my chat with you today is just to share a bit more about the work that the African Climate Alliance has done with the Cancer Call campaign. And I'm joining you today in that capacity as an advocacy coordinator at the African Climate Alliance, where I'm basically trying to work in the space to give more capacity, more support for young people to be involved in decisions that matter to them. And the Cancel Call campaign is a great demonstration of how that sort of happened, right? So I'll share a bit about how I got into the space. So I actually started at Youth at Saya when I was still in school. So I remember I was in high school in grade 10, and I was looking for organizations that can help me get into debating. And going on the internet, looking at those organizations, Youth at Sai actually popped up, and so that's how I got into sort of the space, right? Youth at Saya at the time and still now has a lot of programs around different issues that affect young people, that affect our society. And the Youth Policy Committee is an instrumental tool that does that. But also you have your Model UN, where you get to simulate your global negotiations and speak about all the fantastic sort of solutions, but also the issues that we are facing. So that was my entry point, right? And so after being in the SIA network for a couple of years, I I basically got the chance to then when I started university. So I went to uni after I graduated from high school, and that's when I decided to join the youth policy committee. Um, I hope everyone can hear me. I see today is low bandwidth, so yeah, if you're struggling, please just let me know, and then I'll just take a pause. But basically, I joined the youth policy committee when I joined high school, and that's when I really saw the impact that policy can have on creating a change. And at the time, we the space was not very responsive to the needs, to the demands of young people. It's still, even now, I can say that we have a significant way to go, if to make sure that young people are meaningfully included in the policy process. And why are we including young people in the policy process in the first place? Well, it's because policy is a very important tool for creating change from the top down in society. So when I say the top, I mean from the government level to the local government level to your community level, right? So that's the policy as an instrument for creating change in society, and that's why it's very important for young people to be part of this process, because issues like climate change particularly affect us young people. The people that are in power today, they're making a whole lot of decisions around our future. And most of the time, we are often not involved in that process, right? Or if we're involved in the process, it's often very tick boxy. It's just to say, oh, young people were part of the session. Oh, young people are so amazing. They shared all of these amazing things. But actually, what happens after that, right? So all of this is something that I learned while I was still in varsity. I actually just graduated last year in atmospheric science, as Paul mentioned, and seeing the power that policy can play, right? And throughout the course of my university journey, I then got the chance to be at the ACA. So I joined the task force. This was in 2020, right? This was like in the heat of COVID. um, there was a task force of young people that were basically trying to raise awareness around the Cancer Call court case, which was launched in 2021. And I'll share a bit more about what the Cancer Call court case is just now. And so that was my entry into Cancer Call. And Cancer Call itself, basically what it is that in 2019, the South African government released an integrated resource plan. What is the integrated resource plan? It's a policy tool. So that's the policy aspect of it. They released this plan in 2019. And in this plan, this integrated resource plan is supposed to guide South Africa in how they are going to, create electricity for the country for the next 10 years, right? So every 4 to 5 years, you have your Department of Mineral Resources. That's what it's called now. Back then, it was called the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, and Gwede Mantashe was the minister, still is the minister for the Department of Mineral Resources today. They released this plan that said basically that government wants to procure an additional 1,500 megawatts of new coal, right? And 1,500 megawatts of new coal sounds very abstract, right? And it is. But what does that really mean? That is something that is equivalent to 3 to 4 large power stations. So if you think your Medupi, if you think about all your major power stations in South Africa, basically the government in 2019 was saying we want to build 3 to 4 more of those until 2030. And remember, this is all happening in a time when we're dealing with climate change, right? In 2021, you had your floods in the KZN, which killed, uh, uh, I think it was over 250 people were killed in those floods. And, so this is the context in South Africa that we're living with on a day-to-day basis. So we saw, as the African Climate Alliance, we saw this plan, and we went back to government and was like, Minister, how can we? What informed this decision? How did you get to this decision to procure an additional 3 to 4 large power stations based on coal? What was the reasons that you took? And basically, Guedemantashe told us, no, I do not need to give you any of that information, which really shows you the contempt that our leaders have for us as citizens, but also civil society, right? So with the minister refusing to give over those plans, we then decided to take the minister to court. So this is how the court case started, is that the minister refused to give to the public reasons for why they decided to invest in more coal. Because not only are we dealing with climate change, but coal is very harmful to the health of communities. If you go to the Highveld, so as part of the Cancer Coal Task Force, I got the opportunity to go to the Highveld, Emalahleni, and as soon as you get to Emalahleni, you can sense, you can smell, that the air is very different. And you can imagine people that live in this area on a day-to-day basis, like every single day of their lives. So they're dealing with a lot of health issues, things like asthma, bronchitis, um, even cancer is actually a cause of all of those are caused by air pollution. So we were scrambling, like, why is the minister wanting to invest in more coal if we understand that it's affecting the health of these communities, affecting climate change. It's causing more climate change, where South Africa is already battling with that challenge, like, immensely, but also for jobs, because what is happening now at the global level is that you have different countries, presidents, ministers, very powerful people that are meeting every single year at different times of the year in order to understand how we can move away from this catastrophe, how we can mitigate, the impacts of climate change. And this is the context that we're living with. So, it did not make sense for to us as to why the minister would decide to do that. So that's how the court case started. This was in 2021, and since then, there has been a lot of work that has been done to campaign around sort of the integrated resource plan, and us wanting the government to basically scrap. So that was the goal. We wanted the government to say, okay, this is the plan that we came out with. And then we went through a public consultation process, because every policy tool that the government makes. So if Cyril wakes up tomorrow and wants to make sure that there are less cars on the road, and Cyril wants to create a policy tool in order to do that, Cyril has to speak to every single South African and ask what is their opinion on this, right? And oftentimes this is done through organized groups. So, for example, the integrated resource plan, it concerns energy. So organizations that are working around energy, like the African Climate Alliance, like SIA, and many others in the country, would then speak to Cyril and say, Cyril, we actually think that maybe we need the cars, or we don't need the cars. So this is what we think about it, right? So the same thing was done for the IRP, and the minister completely ignored all of that and decided to go ahead and procure more coal, the 1,500 megawatts. So what happened is that we then, after we went to court in 2021, we basically went to court with the goal of saying to the courts, can you force the minister to give us the records that they used in order to procure more coal? Because we are of the view that more coal is harmful for jobs, because our economy is supposed to transition away from a coal-based economy towards one that is more renewable. Coal is harmful for climate change. It's causing more emissions, which is exacerbating the climate crisis, which is affecting everyday South Africans on a daily basis. I'm sure every single one of us in the session today can relate to climate change in some sense. Like this summer, for example, has been extremely hot. Like, what is going on in Joburg and other places where, like, it's you can feel like there's a change. Something is different. Our winters are not the same. Like, it's everything. It's just not the same anymore. And you can see that on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis, year-to-year basis, right? But also, coal is bad for health. The people that are living in mining affected communities, their health is being severely impacted. And so that was the goal. And the courts forced the minister to give us those records, right? And once the court gave us those records, once the minister was forced to give us those records, because the minister had no choice, the court said, give the people the records that they want. And the minister had to give us the records. And so that's how the momentum started sort of growing. And to skip all the way to last year, just in the interest of time as well, is when basically the courts made a ruling, right, that said that minister could not procure the coal. So we went through a whole 3-year process, because oftentimes court cases are not, they're not quick. They take a very long time, lots of resources, lots of money, to occur. And so the courts ruled in our favor to say that, minister, the court that sorry the coal that you're procuring, first of all, you did not consult young people, right? So remember when I said any policy tool needs consultation with the public. The minister in his procurement said that they consulted with youth, but then it was not really meaningful, because they sent out a notice, and then, one or two organizations responded, and even those organizations did not even have the capacity. So the court said you did not consult with young people. So in order for you to procure this coal, you need to consult young people. So what happened is that they're scratching the 1,500 megawatts of new coal, and they're saying that you have to go back to the drawing board. If you want to procure the coal, you can do that, but consult with the youth, consult with youth organizations, and if based on what they say, then you can make a decision, right? So that is the impact that policy is having, on our air quality laws in South Africa, and particularly the impact that young people are having, because the Cancer Coal court case was a youth-led court case. So all of the organizations that are part of it are youth-led, the African Climate Alliance being one of them, which has, based on the ruling that we got last year, is a landmark decision, is one that will change the future trajectory of South Africa. Because not only did we stop the coal, right? So this is the first time that a court case like this happens, and the courts say that, you cannot, basically, minister, you have all of this power, you are a minister of the country, but you cannot take this decision without speaking to these people. So that we do not only stop the call, but we basically set a precedent where no decision can be made in a policy instrument without meaningful consultation, right? So every single, if a policy is done, that policy has to go through a meaningful consultation sort of cycle. And meaningful consultation, you would remember when I started, I said that the space is not, it's not built for young people. Even now, it's not really responsive. I think there are steps that are being taken, strides that are being made in order to make sure that young people are in this space, young people are participating, but we have a very long way to go. So this ruling that we got from the courts is saying that, is actually solidifying it, putting it down on paper, to say that any process that any government goes on, they cannot do it without meaningfully consulting youth organizations, but also young people. So this is what I wanted to share with everyone today, around the work that young people from all across South Africa, the ACA is in Cape Town, but also in other African countries. Groundwork is in Durban. Vugane is based in mining affected communities, so they are based in Emalahleni. The young people from all of these places, went through this process, this court case, to force the minister to not procure more coal. And what we got in the end is the courts saying that the minister cannot procure that coal. But not only that, that if the minister and any other minister in the country in the future want to venture on a process that affects young people, because climate change affects us, air quality affects us as young people, right? So in any issue that affects young people, the government has to speak to young people, right? As Paul said in the beginning, there can be nothing for us without us. So that's what the outcome of that process was. And so the minister decided to appeal now. So we're going through a whole appeal process, but we see this as something that is good, something that is positive. And why is that? Because initially we had wanted the courts to rule on a constitutional basis, right? So I'm sure every one of us here knows what the Constitution of South Africa is, and what the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of South Africa is. So the Bill of Rights, particularly Section 24 of the Bill of your rights, says that you have the right to a clean, healthy, and a livable environment. So that speaks to everything. It speaks to climate change. So if the climate is changing, the environment cannot be habitable. It speaks to air quality. If companies and governments are emitting more into the atmosphere, the environment that you live in cannot be livable. So what that is saying is, that was the outcome that we wanted, for the courts to say that the minister procuring more coal is harming the constitutional rights. So in this case, the courts just said the young people were not consulted. They did not participate, so they cannot make that decision. But we actually wanted them to say that decision that the minister took to take more coal is actually harming our constitutional rights to a safe and a livable environment. So this is the next step of the court case where the minister is appealing. So now it's going to be the Minister of Energy and Electricity. That's Minister Ramaphosa. So we're going to court again, and we're still in the process. So the appeal actually has not been approved by the courts, because when you appeal, the court is supposed to say, okay, you have reasonable grounds to appeal this decision, to say the initial judgment was not fair. How can we make it better? So we're in that process, and we're hoping that the Constitutional Court, because if the appeal goes through, if the judge accepts that appeal, the court case will go to the Constitutional Court. And basically, we want the Constitutional Court to say that coal is harming our constitutional rights, which will have even more significant ramifications, consequences for the future, where that'll basically spell the end of coal for South Africa moving forward. And this is the end goal. And when I say the end of coal, that many people become nervous. They're like, why do you want to take away the coal in South Africa? Because we need coal. Of course, we need coal, but at the same time, we need to move away from coal. So we need, as time goes, every year we need to be using less and less and less and less coal, so that we can meet our different objectives to have a livable environment. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today around the work that is being done at Cancel Coal, and why it is really important that we all engage with these frameworks. So there's lots of frameworks that are coming out this year. You have your nationally determined contributions, which is basically so you have you have a global climate space where different countries say, okay, in order to reduce climate change, I will reduce my emissions by 30%. So that is happening this year, where countries are going to renew their commitments and say, okay, now it is 2025. We have 5 years until 2030. So in order for my country to meet our commitment to reducing the impact of climate change and mitigating emissions, we are going to reduce our emissions by this much. So all of that is really important. It's really important that more young people in the space are participating. And so there's a lot of exciting work that is going to happen around policy in South Africa. And I think now is the time for young people to really engage and to really be present, seeing the impact that we can have in the long run. And litigation is one of those tools. But it's in addition, right? This first step is for us to be present in the space and make sure that our voices are heard. So yeah, I think I will stop there. I'm also cognizant of time. I hope I didn't use too much, and I'll pass it back to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much. So you can all see me. All righty. Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Sbusiso. So insightful and so true to why we've all gathered here today. My main driver as well, having you here, Sbusiso, is for that wonderful presentation, just so that more people can know that this is not the era for being hopeless. This is the era to speak up, to mobilize, and to use our institutions and our judicial structures to stand up for what we are worthy of and what we deserve, what we are deserving of, and saying this is infringing on our constitutional rights as young people, as people who are here in South Africa, and challenging that. So thank you so much, Sbusiso, for just all of those wonderful insights. A really nice quote that I really like from you is that policy is a powerful tool in creating change, and it is, which means as a tool that creates change, it's important that young people are at the center of all the policies that we create and all the policies that are driven by our government. So I'm super happy with that. I'm very passionate about this topic. It's taking everything in me not to dive deeper into what Sbusiso said, but for now I will park it. And hopefully we can just also talk more about that in the question and answer session. But with respect to time, I will now yield the floor to Dr. Raisa. She is now in session and will be able to give us a wonderful, insightful 10-minute presentation about what air pollution is, a South African research-based perspective. But before that, please allow me to read her wonderful, impressive bio, just so you can get an idea of who this wonderful person is and how they're going to be contributing meaningfully to the session. So Dr. Raisa Mwela holds a master's degree in environmental sciences from the University of Johannesburg and a doctorate degree in air quality and environmental health from the University of Witwatersrand. Dr. Mwela has been employed at the university for 13 years as an atmospheric science professor and researcher. Her research interests lie in hotspot monitoring and modeling of urban scale air pollution and its impact on human health and climate, specifically related to VOC emissions and pollution from transport sectors. She's also involved in the surface and tropospheric ozone research and is currently participating in the IGAC-led TOR project. Last year, she was appointed as an expert panelist to serve on the National South African Air Quality Standard Councils to review national air quality guidelines. We have an expert among us. We have someone who's dedicated, passionate, and I invite you all to just discover what air pollution is with our esteemed Dr. Raisa. Dr. Raisa, I invite you to take the floor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the invitation to attend and have a talk with you. Welcome to all the youth that are joining us today and passionate about air pollution. It's so wonderful to have this platform. It's the first time I'm actually attending one of these, so I am really excited to have further conversations about air pollution, especially in this sphere. So as mentioned, I am an atmospheric chemist, and my main focus is looking at VOCs and looking at pollution across the different South African scenarios. One of the main things that we notice with air pollution in South Africa is that it takes a secondary role amongst problems. So we have a lot of our HIV, our TB problems, we have issues with housing, water, sanitation, and air pollution. Because it's such an unseen problem, it sometimes doesn't get the attention it needs. Pollution has become one of the major problems across the country, specifically on the Highveld. It has also been deemed as the Highveld priority area, the HPA, and this area is actually now managed and legalized as an area of severe air pollution. Air pollution is one of the areas we have to look at. It's not just an atmospheric problem. It doesn't just cause, it does cause a lot of climate change issues, especially with feedback to clouds. So we have an additional amount of pollution that is present for the CCN, the cloud condensation nuclei. And this does have major impacts on climate change. But the main focus of air pollution also has to be from the health side. So the health side is very important because our VOCs and our PMs, our particulate matters, are very problematic. You inhale them, they then affect your alveoli, you can't breathe, it causes bronchial spasms or asthma in younger children. It can cause pulmonary adhesion and embolisms in adults. Our VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, are very dangerous. Some are cancer-carrying products, and some are even known to cause teratogenic effects. Teratogenic effects actually mean that it can affect unborn fetuses. So when we look at air pollution, we're actually speaking of impacts and effects all the way from birth or even pre-birth all the way to adulthood, and it especially a vulnerable group of newborn babies and up to the age of 5, as well as your elderly people from age of 60 onwards, are more susceptible to air pollution. So as the youth start getting involved, we can make very big changes. How do we do our cooking? Do we use clean air? Do we use clean fuels for cooking? Our air pollution that comes from transport sector? Can we make changes to our fueling systems, to our cars? Could we also look at ways in which that we could use public transport systems to reduce air pollution across these systems? So the youth are very vital in these conversations, and they can make differences for generations to come. The climate change agenda that is tabled at COP29 had actually, for the first time ever last year, looked at both air pollution and how it affects health. And this is something that needs to be tabled a lot more. So as a youth in this country, I am very proud to say that I am happy that there are people that are willing to look at this, that there are systems in place for this. And I'd be happy to ever, if there are conversations and there's programs, to join and assist in making sure that we do something both manageable but also proactive in the coming years to go. I don't know if you want to open the floor to any questions before I continue.
We can, but you can also continue. It depends on how you're feeling about your presentation. Yeah, it's so insightful.
Okay, so I can give you a bit more insight in terms of what happens at the university level. We do a lot of research on different forms of pollution, so not just air pollution. I am specifically involved in air pollution, and we do research across different areas. So we look at from the social impacts to the economic impacts to the health impacts, and then we also take it further in the way that we then combine it with the other spheres. So we look at how it affects soil, water, and our soil, water, and waste systems. So we do a lot of research with government as well as other research entities. We build this into such a way that it is then mitigation strategies that are used, and the mitigation strategies are then used as bylaws or into policies. So the panel that I am sitting on for government is the National Air Quality Guidelines Act, and that has direct implications of who can legislatively be fined for emissions that are toxic. So whether it's your criteria pollutants, your NOx, SOx, or CO, we also have rules and regulations that they have to follow. If they are in contravention of these laws, they are fined. It can go to court. So I do sit on some court cases as well, where we have issues from landfills, for instance, and there's problems where the health of people are being affected, and it then becomes a legal issue. So it can go all the way up to the High Court, and we sit on those. So there's a multitude of various ways that we look at air pollution and also how it impacts people on the ground as well as researchers. So it has to have impactful meaning. It doesn't just have to be in a journal paper and then be forgotten. It needs to actually be taken up by the local people that we're working with. And I think that is very important for a youth group to remember that when we do things like this, it doesn't have to just be for research. It has to have a positive impact for the people, especially for the lower income areas where they are most vulnerable to these situations. They may not have money for clean cook stoves. So we could do a mitigation strategy and put clean cook stoves in areas and say, this will help you. You won't have asthma. You won't have allergic rhinitis. And all of these impacts will help you. And they then don't have any money to buy the new fuel that we give them, the stove that they have to use. So we have to look at it pragmatically, and we have to have situations where people also are willing to accept the changes that we want to make. And as a youth group, that is something that you always have to remember, is that when we go into these areas and we make changes, are the people willing and are the people wanting these changes? And we can have major impacts, and we can have these issues seen very far along. South Africa is very forefront about issues like this. We have a government that basically does allow us to do these research studies, and we should take full advantage of it. So I think I will stop there so I don't inundate you with more information.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It was so insightful and just spoke to so many of the things that, you know, we as young people in this session are also trying to learn, just getting a breakdown of air pollution, of how it affects us. You know, a key aim of this session is also, you know, for our young people to discover the impact of air pollution and how it affects them on a day-to-day, and just really understanding the depth and the severity of the issue at hand. I will make reference to something that she said that really caught my interest, that you know, you look at air pollution and the different impacts, whether socially, whether economically, and then also looking at how it affects soil and water and the environment at large. I really love that because as I was conducting research, as this is a topic of my interest, I was looking at how, you know, in communities like Mpumalanga, where there's a lot of mining, the air pollution is so bad that it now affects the soil, and it gets to a point where the soil is now infertile, and it's more difficult to grow fresh vegetables and fresh crops in an environment where there's already air pollution, and on top of that, you know, it's expensive and people are trying to enrich their livelihoods. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Isa. Thank you for your time. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. With that, I would like to open the session to everyone who is present. We're going to have a quick 10 to 15, but maybe 10 minutes in a count of time, question and answer session. We just want to hear if you guys have questions for our speakers, for the room at large, for Dr. Raisa or Usbusiso from African Climate Alliance. The floor is open to anyone who has questions. Don't be shy. This is your space. Take ownership. With that, I open the floor to questions. Do we have any hands, or you can unmute yourself or drop a question in the comment box, and then we'll gladly read it for you. So young people, any questions?
I am for.
Hi there, please go ahead.
I'm Paul Lufuno here. I'm joining from Deep Sloot Secondary School. I'm with a student who wants to ask a question.
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
So as we heard from with Mr. Sbusiso and Dr. Raisa, we learned that pollution is not just something that we just ignore, but it's something that we should take seriously. So my question is, how do we find solutions into stopping air pollution, and how to help people who are being affected to air pollution, not just everyone, but also the plants and animals out there?
Lovely. Thank you so much for that question. Important. Can I have one of our speakers take it? Whether it's Dr. Raisa or Sbusiso. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the part about how young people can maybe get involved. And I think maybe Dr. Aisa would be more well positioned to talk about the plants as well. But yeah, I can touch on that as well a little bit. I think sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name. But basically, you are at the perfect place to ask that question, right? Because I think this session today and this project as a whole is exactly for that, to make sure that young people are more proactive when it comes to issues of air quality in South Africa as a whole. And I do know that the goal, that sort of the deliverables, is to have youth air quality champions, right? And I think every single person here today can be a youth air quality champion, where and there's a lot of different things to do, right? So the first thing the first thing that comes to mind for me is to have your community. And I think all of us here are interested about air quality, and I think there's a sense of community that you can find here, something that you share with everyone, right? And once you have that community, it's all about working together with that community to then try to work together and raise awareness around these issues. And I myself, this is something that I'm always thinking about as well. I'm always thinking about how can I do more, right? Because I think we always have to do more. So just to answer the question, I think you're at the perfect place today for you to do exactly that, for you to influence air quality issues, right? Through this project, the campaign that Youth at SAIA is running. But also, I think you can take on this by yourself. So looking at your community, in my community, I've seen that waste is a huge problem, right? And it's something that I'm thinking about. I think what we also need is like entrepreneurship. We need more entrepreneurs, youth entrepreneurs especially, that will focus on impact, right? Because I think we're living in very interesting times where um, most of our systems, all of us are living in a system of capitalism where you know you have businesses that are trying to make profits. But I think right now we have a unique opportunity to redefine that, where it's not just about profit, but it's actually about what impact is it having on the people around you, your community as well. So I think and I think when I was in school, I think as someone who's outside of school, who's seen, who's been through the schooling system, I wish there was more focus on entrepreneurship, like whether it's in the curriculum, whether it's through your extracurricular activities, where schools are supposed to build entrepreneurial skills of the students, so that once the students leave the school, they don't go out to look for work, but they're able to create that work for themselves. But beyond just work and jobs, for the young people to think critically about the issues that are surrounding them in their communities. So I think there's a lot that can be done with entrepreneurship, and this is something that I'm thinking about. So if there's any entrepreneurs here who are interested in waste, just hit me up, and maybe we can talk about something more. But yeah, I think entrepreneurship, but also being in the space today, and just sharing with your friends and sharing on social media, like taking everyday actions that may seem small, but when more people do it, it really compounds. So I think that's really just to answer the question around the role that we can play in like air quality issues, especially as young people.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking that, Spusiso. And I hope we've answered at least partially of the question to the student in Diepsloot. I just wanted to check if Dr. Raisa would be able to shed some light in terms of plant animal species in that regard. And then we're going to move on to one more question. And then from then we're going to move to the next session. So we do have two more. Two more questions, and one session, which is a panel discussion. So yes, I just want to open up to Dr. Raisa just to find out about the plant species side of things. You
Yes.
have.
Thank you. So thank you. That was a very good question. It also means that you are trying to think of how these impacts affect other things, which is really good. One of the main ways is always to reduce pollution, because plants and animals are unfortunately unable to do anything if there are high levels of pollution, whether that is air pollution or water pollution or soil pollution, especially if they're in a specific area. So that has to be proactive from our side. We have to realize the air pollution is, or the air quality is insufficient for them, and do something about it. So there's a lot of ways to actually reduce air pollution in areas. And the nice thing about the current generation is you have access to a lot of tools that you could use, whether it's TikTok or YouTube. You could find a lot of people doing very small things that make big impacts. So for instance, when you're using your Mbola, do you actually light it from the top to the bottom? If you do a bottom-up method, you actually reduce the amount of PMs, and it can really assist in reducing the amount of particulate matter that is released into the atmosphere. And that has then a lot of consequences for your animals, for instance, especially if you're doing subsistence farming or you have animals in your yard and you're allowing this smoke to be released from your back kitchen, you're actually reducing that amount of pollution. So there's a lot of videos. I know a professor in the US, his name is Robert Corsi, and he actually shows you how to build your own HEPA filter. And you could build these filters, you could reduce the amount of pollution. They're really low cost. So it has to be proactive from your side. You cannot, animals and plants are susceptible and they take the most impact because they can't do anything about it, especially young children, animals and plants. So we have to be, as the youth and the next generation, we have to be proactive in reducing that pollution for them. Plants, for instance, take in a lot of the air pollution through their stoma on their leaves, and they actually absorb a lot of VOCs, CO and CO2. So if we reduce the amount of traffic, for instance, in very high traffic zones, we reduce the impact on plants. So everything has to be done by us. We have to be proactive, and there are platforms for us to do this. So we have to take it hands-on. And I have to say that you are in the position to do it. You are willing, you are able, and you are young, you have energy. So I'm really proud to see the next generation going ahead. And as I said before, it is definitely an open offer that please contact me if you ever want to look at programs in order to reduce pollution in specific areas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raisa. I hope our fellow student in Diepsloot feels that the answer, the question has been answered. And also just thank you to our speakers for speaking with so much hope, for positivity, encouraging our young people. It's needed now more than ever because youth voices matter. And it's important that our young people know that these spaces are for them and that they can raise their voices regarding these issues. So thank you, thank you. In the interest of time, I am going to move to the next session, which is the panel discussion. However, I have taken note of Siyabonga Baloy's question, and I'm thinking of just using it for the first question, which I throw to our panelists. So with that, I'm just going to lead on to the panel discussion, which is centered on the youth's role in securing an air-just South Africa. And in our panel is going to be Boitumelo Kenosi from the Youth Policy Committee. I'm just going to quickly read Boitumelo's bio. Boitumelo is a second-year law student with a deep passion for climate change advocacy. Driven by a commitment to sustainability, Boitumelo is dedicated to raising awareness about the urgent need for environmental action, particularly among young people. And as an advocate, Boitumelo believes that education is a key to creating lasting change and is focused on empowering peers to understand the world around them. From the challenges we face about climate change to the solutions we can implement as a society, whether through thought-provoking discussions or hands-on initiatives, Boitumelo works to inspire others to become active participants in shaping a more sustainable future. And Boitumelo has a strong foundation in both law and environmental issues and is working to make a tangible impact and is passionate about creating a community of informed and motivated young leaders ready to tackle the world's most pressing problems. I hope that Boitumelo is here with us in the session. Just kindly raise your hand or react if you have been able to join us. But in the meantime, I'm also going to introduce our second speaker, which we've already been well acquainted to. Thank you, Dumi. She is here in the room with us, lovely. Our second speaker is Sibusiso, who we've already met from the African Climate Alliance. Sibusiso is going to be part of our panel as well. And then we're also going to have Mahlasedi Ledwaba from Rosebank College. Allow me to quickly read her biography. Mahlasedi Ledwaba is a youth leader and advocate for environmental sustainability in Seshego, a township in Limpopo. She's currently pursuing a business management qualification at Rosebank College. She's known for her dedication to addressing environmental challenges and driving community development. As a leader in Bliss Treats, a youth-driven project aligned with Sustainable Development Goals, she has spearheaded initiatives focused on zero hunger, zero poverty, and environmental conservation. Her hands-on approach has included organizing cleanup campaigns, promoting sustainable practices, and fostering partnerships to improve community well-being. Her role in campaigns highlights her commitment to raising awareness about air quality issues and empowering youth to take action for a cleaner and healthier environment. So that's Mahlasedi Ledwaba. If you can just quickly raise your hand just so we can know you're here. And then we have our other panelist who's going to be joining us, Uezethu Hlatshwayo from Protea Glen Secondary School. And if we can just quickly get a sense of your presence, Ezethu, just let us know if you are here. But yes, so this is going to be our panel where we're going to just be learning from our esteemed young people, Boitumelo, Sibusiso, Mahlasedi, Ezethu, about how young people, how youth can be more involved, and specifically what the role of young people is in securing an air-just South Africa. So with that, I now open the floor, and I'm going to be moderating this session, presenting questions, and then just streamlining the conversation in that regard. So to either Sibusiso, Mahlasedi, Boitumelo, and Ezethu, the first question that I have for you that's part of our Q&A is how can Section 24 of the Constitution, which is the right to a clean and healthy, livable environment, be balanced with the need for access to affordable and reliable energy? Any takers? Mahlasedi, I see your hand is up. You're welcome to come in.
May you please repeat the question for me? I did not hear you
Yes.
very well.
Of course, so sorry. I hope I'm audible to the rest of the room. I was saying that our first question as part of the panel is how can Section 24 be balanced with the need for how can Section 24 of the Constitution, which is the right to a clean environment, be balanced with the need for access to affordable and reliable energy? Basically, how do we take our constitutional right and balance it with the urgent need that is at hand? Take your time, it's so good.
I honestly don't think I have a response to that. Maybe Tumi can help me with that.
Hi
What do you say?
guys.
Oh, yes.
I will try and answer that to the best of my capacity. I would say that what we need to do as people is we need to educate ourselves on more legal resources like Section 24. And we have to know that when we find ourselves in situations where we are confronted by air pollution and all sorts of environmental hazards, we have the Bill of Rights, we have the Constitution, and we should be able to approach the right courts. We should be able to approach legal clinics and say that, listen, this is what's going on in my city, in my town. We are breathing dirty air. We are being basically left behind just because perhaps we don't have the right knowledge or we don't know where to go 100% of the time. You approach your legal advocates and attorneys, and they should be able to help you with regards to Section 24. They should be able to put it in context with the situation that you're in and approach the necessary courts. I think that's the answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a brilliant answer. And I think also something that's really important about it is it speaks to what Sibusiso said earlier, right? That policies are such important tools. And we have one of the best constitutions in the world. And I think that we have a responsibility to uphold it as well and to make use of it. You know, we have this framework that's there for us, and it's assisting us in that regard. And because we have the framework, we can also establish a process and a procedure in order to make use of it as young people. So for that, I want to thank you. And then the next question is that I have for the panel in general is, do you as youth activists see the youth getting more involved with climate? If not, what are the gaps? This is open to anyone. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. I believe that the youth is not really aware of the situations that we are facing when it comes to pollution and how it actually impacts the environment. We just overlook it. We know there is air pollution, but we don't really take much time to process what it is and how it actually harms us. And I believe that if we do a lot of campaigns uh, to actually advocate and tell the youth how harmful this thing is and how important it is for us to take care of our environment, it will be very helpful. And I believe that the youth will be more involved in it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mahlasedi. Just for anyone who's unaware, Mahlasedi is actually the student who was part of our social media campaign, speaking as a youth expert. And I love that answer because it links beautifully to where you said that you went to a march and you guys raised your voice against air pollution. You know, it was a successful march, you know. So with that, that's how we make sure that these things are not overlooked, right? This is how we bring awareness to the forefront. And this is how we make sure that as many young people are capacitated and empowered. Hi all. Hi all. Apologies for that.
Our Wi-Fi just was.
Cut your video.
Okay. Alrighty. So sorry about that. Hello, can you guys see me?
We
can
can
see
see you now.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. Apologies. The session was so good that the Wi-Fi got jealous, is my explanation for what just happened. But yes, basically what I wanted to point towards our youth panel is yeah, when did you start realizing that air pollution is a problem that is so big that you wanted to make it known to everyone else around you as a youth advocate and scholar? Yeah.
Okay, Mpho, can I just quickly add on to what Mahlasedi said earlier on and say
Please.
that I think that we need to move from just teaching school children in classes about air pollution, it does this is what it looks like, and move towards really telling them how it will affect their future. That if we don't have clean air, there might not be a future. We might not have oxygen, clean oxygen to breathe. Our water will be affected. Everything will be affected. I don't know if you saw in Hammanskraal, they have issues with water. Those things are crucial things that affect us in so many ways. And people from the grassroots level, from primary, need to know the dangers of just throwing your bottle in the streets or just leaving things unattended, you know? So I just wanted to add that.
That's a great point. You know, I feel like they could be so much more that we do, right? Especially where I come from in Krugersdorp, my biggest irritation is that we have these wildfires, and no one does anything about it, and it grows because there's a lot of like grass and land in that area, and it affects the entire city because it's a small little cute city. So that's a problem. I'm going to just address Takalani. I see you have your hand raised. You can quickly come in just for a quick beat though, a quick minute.
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
just to summarize, I think people already know the effects, but they're not aware. Let's say there is air pollution or something that is causing it. So for the youth to participate, we need to bring awareness to them so that they can be aware of consequences of what's happening around them and what may be causing air pollution, because they may be ignoring what may be causing it and where it's coming from. But they're facing consequences.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Takalani. That's actually so wonderful because yes, we have to know the causes. We need to know exactly what we're talking about, right? Okay, and then another question that I have for our youth panel.
Can I answer the question?
Oh, yes. Just for a minute.
Yes, hi, I'm Nolande and I'm currently joining from Port Atlant Secondary number 1. I wanted to answer the previous question where you asked us, Uti, when did you realize that air pollution is a problem? I started paying more attention to air pollution ever since participating in the competition last year, the 2024 air competition, which was held by the City of Johannesburg, whereby they showcased us many different aspects of air quality and how it affects people and how serious it is across the world and not only our country.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much. And I think this also speaks to, using our, how do I say, being part of events that, speak to our interests, to our concerns, It's a lot of the time where you put yourself out there that you realize the depth and the scope of, a problem that was once deep ingrained in your heart, but now can be ingrained deeper because you now have a platform to explore it further. So that's really, really great. And I encourage young people to do that. If you find that there is something you're interested in with the climate, with agenda, or with regards to air pollution, maybe we'll also take a look at, the air competition or what's happening around us locally. What initiatives are there that can help capacitate you and also help you grow as a leader, as a young leader in this space, and as an advocate, as a champion for breathable air, breathable cities, right? So thank you for that. And then back to our panelists, I wanted to ask, let's see, I'm trying to change it up a bit. Okay, so we had part of Sibusiso's speech and opening remarks. Sibusiso told us about the African Climate Alliance's involvement in terms of the Cancel Coal campaign and how they overturned the government's decision to build 1,500 megawatts of new coal-fired station, right? And so given the African Climate Alliance's, journey in overturning the government's decision to build more coal, what does this say about the youth's role in issues of this magnitude and how young people can go about addressing these issues? Yeah.
Paul?
Yes.
Can I answer this question?
Yes, please take the floor.
Okay, so I see it as just a global turn in the way that older people and people in power see the youth. They're starting to take us more seriously and starting to take into consideration the research that we put forward and that we showcase to them. So it's a very, very strong signal. And I think that we should ride off of this wave basically of them looking at us, them asking us for solutions, and then them wanting to involve us in what they're doing. So I see it as a very big turn in the way we are seen, and I think it's a very good step in the right direction.
I definitely have to agree, because I feel like the narrative, has been that, oh, maybe young people don't care, maybe young people are not as involved as we'd like them to be, and perhaps this is one of the sources of exclusion. But us coming to the floor and speaking up and just being honest about how things are going, challenging structures that actually, affect our well-being, whether it's with the mines or with certain industries, and just being able to speak up about that, it really, really does change the narrative and really show that young people, we are leaders, and we are here to be heard. We're here to also be part of the change we want to see. So I love that. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to pick on one of my panelists. I'm going to go back to this question. What environmental rights or policies are often overlooked and need to be given more attention based on your experience as an activist and scholar? I'm going to throw this one to Sibusiso. If they're still in the session with us, just kindly let me know if you're here. But otherwise, we can also open it up to the youth panel.
Yes, still here, Paul.
Yeah, lovely.
I think in terms of the rights, right? Well, I think it's really in South Africa. South Africa is a great country. I think having the privilege to go out of South Africa and then come back, I'm always like so excited to come back to my country, and I kiss the ground, every time I come back. So but in the same breath, I think there's a lot of things, but I think this being like sort of in the issues around environmentalism. I guess the first one would be the environmental rights, right? Section 24, which Section 24 of the Constitution, it's impossible to look at in isolation, and this goes for like any other right that you can speak about. So you cannot live in a safe in a clean, healthy environment if you don't have food, right? Or you cannot live in a safe, clean, healthy environment if you don't have water, if your community is not safe, if it's if there's the service delivery is not done properly. So I think what I'd like to highlight is really the intersectionality of rights. I think if we look at it from that perspective, then it really goes to say that all rights are being they're not giving the attention and the focus that they should get, right? And I think what comes to mind as well, as I think being in activism has really um, radicalized me, and also being an environmental science student, having learned about things like capitalism, which I didn't really even learn about in school. So I'm sure all the people in the classroom are like, what are you talking about? What is capitalism? Why is capitalism a problem? If you do know what that is, then props to you. You're doing amazing so far. But I think really the challenge of our like our challenge as young people right now is to really have to redefine that whole system that puts profit over the people, over the environment. I think that's the core of all the problems that we are facing in our communities, in our societies today, is to say, how do we make sure that you don't have a small group of people who are making a lot of money exploiting other people while the majority is left to suffer. And this goes for any discussion that you have, whether you're talking about the climate, whether you're talking about energy, whether you're talking about the economy, everything, it all boils down to exploitation of people, to exploitation of our planet and our resources. So I think it's a very broad. I've sort of made it broad, but just to say that I think ours is to really do that, to overturn the system of exploitation. And how do we do that? I think that links to the first question that you posed around how do we balance, for example, air quality issues with the demand for electricity. And I think we really have to internalize the fact that we are not, the world that you think that you're still living in, that's not the world that we are living in today. So and this happens with the climate. So for example, the emissions that were emitted in the 1970s, that those are the emissions that are causing the problems that we're facing today. So things take, there's like a balance, there's a lag that happens, as a sort of a rule of life, I guess. So we have to think, if we're not living in the world that we thought we were living, what world are we living in? And I think the world that we should be living in is one that is defined by socially owned renewables. What are socially owned renewables? We know that we want to move away from coal, we want to move away from fossil fuels, we need renewable electricity, right? But you can't just go from coal, fossil fuels to renewables, because what you're doing, if you're going to do that in our society, you're not addressing the root, and coming back to the root of capitalism, of exploitation, right? So what we need to do is to reinvent the system to do away with capitalism, not just by just switching the source of energy that we're using, but to really challenge the systems of oppression and systems of exploitation that we're facing, to include people on the ground. And that's where the community socially owned renewables comes in, where you have renewable electricity in different communities that is inside those communities, so it's controlled by the community, and the community benefits from those projects. So I think there's already talks around socially owned renewables, where those would really help with providing electricity, but at the same time, they will make sure that, things like air quality, things like climate change are also addressed at the same time. So I think that's sort of the world that we want to live in. That's the future that, we might not yet see, but that's the future that we're already in. And we have to really fight, because, if we don't fight, you're going to have us going from fossil fuels to renewable energy without really addressing the fact that you have a small group of people in every other country, whether that be government, whether that be your ultra rich in society, the people that are hoarding the means of production. Whether that be the case, we have to make sure that they don't co-opt this revolution that we are currently going through, and just switch us from one form of electricity to the other without addressing the fact that there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of stealing, there's a lot of oppression, and there's a lot of disregard for people, communities, and the environment that is really the problem with our communities, with our societies today.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Spusiso. Very insightful, and just also really great in terms of intersectionality. As a sociologist, I love that concept because it speaks to much of the problems that we're experiencing in our country. And even when we say environmental injustice, air pollution is one part of it that's informed by, various factors, whether this is service delivery, whether this is spatial divides that are historical as well within our society as well. So it's very important to also make note of that, especially with our country that has painful past and things that have yet to still be reconciled as part of our nation building, as one of the youngest democracies, I argue. So yes, I do love that. And in account for time, I do have to wrap up the session. Since there is going to be a Q&A, so anyone who has questions for our panelists, you'll be able to ask them in the coming session. I just do have one last question for our panelists, Spusiso Boitumelo. Yes, Spusiso Boitumelo, Eze2, and Mahlasedi. Just want to ask you all, just in a quick 2 sentences max, but ideally 1 sentence, how do you want to make a difference? Short and sweet.
Okay, I'll go first. I believe that teaching the young students, learners from primary and high school, to actually learn about air pollution, for me, I believe that it is the best way to go about it, because as they grow, they will be able to understand, and we will eventually have an air pollution free country, or a world as it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mahlasedi. Our next panelist, Dumi, if you may.
For me, I would start off by saying that we need to also reach the people in the rural areas. We should not leave anyone behind in this journey, and mobilize more youth and give more practical examples and practical demonstrations to those young people.
Thank you. Next speaker, Spusiso. Oh, yes, you can join us. Please, you're more than welcome.
Yes, I would love to see the municipality sponsor us to bring our project that we created at the 2024 Air Quality Competition to life, so that we can minimize the risk of air pollution, and also to minimize the risk of getting diseases.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ezetu. Our next speaker, Spusiso, although you've spoken.
Yeah, I think I'm going to maybe reiterate, collaborate with more young people. I think collaborate. That's all I want to do for the coming year. I think we all have amazing ideas, and we can all do so much if we work together more and, be part of a community.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists for just wonderful insights, and for just really taking the time to be part of this discussion, and also just for being a source of hope and of inspiration for our youth cohort who have joined us here today. With that, I would like to move to the next part of the session, which is our Q&A. Going to keep this very, very short and sweet. 2 questions from any of the people who are here present with us, whether questions to the speakers or general questions. You are free to just unmute, but we'll be taking 2 speakers on the account of time because we do have to start wrapping up. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Chrissy.
This is Julian from Deep Suit Secondary number 3. I have a question. I've been wondering from this moment you have been talking about Section 24. We here and my comrades are asking what is that exactly?
Does any one of our speakers want to take that? What is Section 24 and how can we best explain this for our young people? Yeah, anyone?
I'm happy to take that one. I think I love that question so much because it really shows like why it's so important to not take things for granted, in the sense that you don't we if you're in a space for a long time, you start thinking that, oh, I can just say just transition, I can just say climate change and expect people to know, whereas it's like, actually, what really is it? So Section 24 of the Constitution says, it provides that everyone has the right to the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations through reasonable legislative and other measures that prevent pollution and ecological degradation and promote conservation, right? So that's a lot of words, but basically everyone has a right to live in an environment that is clean, that is healthy as well, right? So if I plant food, if I'm a farmer and I plant food on the land should be able to give me the food that I'm planting. But when we talk about things like air pollution, right? What air pollution does is that it makes the environment not clean, because this means that the air that I'm breathing is harmful to my health. And it's not just, we're not saying, oh, the environment is not clean because the environment is not clean. It means that there are people that are making the environment not to be clean. So those people are infringing on my right to an environment that is healthy, that is clean, and that benefits me, right? But also, that Section 24 does speak about that the government, so the person who has the duty to uphold this right in this case is the government. So the government is supposed to provide you with an environment that is healthy, that is safe, that is clean for you to live in. So that's what Section 24 of the Constitution is all about. It's living in an environment that is clean and that is healthy, right? And I said earlier that you cannot live in an environment that is clean and healthy if you don't have water, if you don't have electricity, if you don't have food, if you don't have this, if you don't have that. So the environmental rights, Section 24 of the Constitution, is very much linked to every other right, that are like dignity, equality, freedom. All those things are very important for you to live in an environment that is clean, that is healthy, and that is safe for you as a citizen of South Africa.
Thank you so much, Spusiso. That was a very well-rounded explanation. I see that we have 3 hands and we can only take 1. So I'm just gonna say the first one to speak gets to speak.
Can I speak?
I will ask
It looks like Aya spoke first. I apologize.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry for everyone else's questions that couldn't be answered. But hi, guys, and everyone that's in the chat. My name is Ayanda Kambule, and I'm a student from UJ. And I was part of Mahlasedi Ledwaba's campaign last year that she had. And I'd just like to ask, this question is mainly posed to Boitumelo, because she spoke on the courts, approaching courts. I just forgot what the question was. I'd just like to ask, approaching the courts is one thing. I'm more concerned about implementation of the frameworks put in place to combat these concerns. I mean, we attend rallies, take part in marches as the youth, but we hardly get support implementation strategies from our superiors, that would be like our government. I stand to be corrected and educated on how implementation is currently going in the country, but how do we move from educating one another, like this platform, this campaign that we're having right now, and these concerns, and actually start implementing?
Okay, thank you for that question. I would start off by saying that it's very important for us to not only talk about it, like you said, but also to implement it. Now, it's harder for us, people on the ground who are not in corporates or in governments, for us to get our word out there. But demonstrations are very important. They do cause attention to be brought to the matter at hand, which is a very, very important thing. Attention is very important, but also networking with people in corporates. Corporates are a very big player in global climate change and everything, and being able to discuss ways forward that will benefit us and them, because they need something that will also benefit them, will be a great way to streamline it to the government at some points. But demonstration for us, I think, is the best thing that we have right now. And also creating more awareness. You know, you can never know too much, and there's always going to be people who don't know as much as they should. So continuing educating those around us, demonstrating, and reaching out to people in these positions. Now we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, we have all these things. Trying to put our word out there will definitely get the desired outcomes at the end, because we have so many platforms that facilitate change, that facilitate talks. And it's all about making sure that the people who are decision makers also know everything they need to know, and the costs and the benefits of implementing what we need implemented. So that's what I would tell you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Izetta, I see you are keen. I'm just gonna give you the last question. Yeah.
Good day. My name is Gundo Muchekwa and I'm studying at Project Lane number 1. So I have a question. What do you do to the learners what do you do to support the learners at school who are more involved in equality?
Any one of our speakers wants to take that? What do we do to support our learners? I feel like that speaks on what Mahlasedi said about, just teaching young people from a young age about, what air pollution is. But I stand to be corrected. Mahlasedi is here. She can back her quote. Mahlasedi, thank you.
I'm sorry, you are right. We should, I believe in doing workshops for students so that they are able to understand what air pollution is and how to maneuver around it. I stand to be corrected. Pick It Up does one of those workshops where they teach learners on what to do and what not to do. They give out red cards to most LRC team, where it's a way of them that they use to try to mitigate pollution around the school, and they carry those values out in the world. So I believe that workshops and just educating learners that what air pollution is and the depth of it. I believe I answered your question.
Oh, can I say something in
It
addition
has to be quick. I'm giving you a minute because we're running over time.
We
So
also
it
have a
needs to
question as well, colleagues.
This
the chat
session
as
is
well.
really, really running over time. What I can do is encourage any further questions in the chat functions. We are way late on our schedule. It's just this one, but after this, I'm so sorry. Any following questions are cut. I apologize. Yeah. So
Yes, so I would like to ask Guti, can the city of Johannesburg and municipalities offer bursaries to students who participate in competitions that create more awareness about equality, especially to matriculants who are finishing school and going to varsity, who are interested in becoming equality specialists?
do we have any one of our representatives, anyone in the room who can shed light to whatever opportunities are available for our young students? I know we have a huge cohort of attendees here with us. Is there anyone available to take that? Hmm.
I'm happy to come in.
Okay, Sibusiso,
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, I think so. I do know the municipality, Joburg municipality. They do have like different bursary schemes, but it's usually so it depends on like the field of study that you're going into. So for example, I think the last time I saw one, the city of Johannesburg was funding, and it's more usually for university students, right? So it's less so for people that are still in school, and I mean, SAIA is very actively working together with different decision makers. The city of Johannesburg having been one of them in the past, and I think what we found out was that um, it's very the city does a lot of things, right? And they sometimes they like very overstretched in resources, etc., etc. So it's quite difficult because it depends on them. It's difficult to go to the city and say, okay, so we want this and this and that. um Whereas I think the learning from that was that it's important to bring it back to the organization. So for example, Youth at Saya has a program where they're supporting implementation of different projects, right? So that's a great way to get involved, and this is open to anyone who is South African, any young person in South Africa. But also, I think I saw a question in the chat that said, for someone who's not affiliated with any networks, how can they get involved in these initiatives? And my answer to that would be that it's difficult. It's almost you cannot in this space. You need to be part of a network, right? You can't do things by yourself for yourself. You have to do things with other people. Get involved in an organization that is already doing the work. So that whether that being the implementation that SAIA is doing, whether it be through starting a club in your school. And of course, if you need help, if you need support, you reach out to the people that can help you. SAIA is a great channel to do that. The ACA is doing a lot of work with schools, with the university as well. So there's a lot of organizations out there that are already doing this. And I think I said when I started, I was like, when I wanted to debate, and I just went on the internet and just searched like what organizations that can help me, or where can I debate, like debating competitions. That's what I searched for, and different organizations came up. I went to one of them. One of them was SAIA. So that's how I got involved in the space. So I think you have to get involved in some sort of network, especially a youth organization. If it's focused on climate, even better, because then they would be concerned with issues of air quality if you want to participate in the space. And if you need support, if you want to start a club in your school, and you think that there's no support, I think the most immediate support would be is to speak to your teachers. So ask your teacher, how can I, if I want to do this, how can I get involved? And your teachers, I think, will be very well placed to connect you to all of these different organizations as well. So it's important, yeah, to not do things. You can't do things alone. The challenges that we're facing are way too big. They are too big for one person to do anything about. You need to join an organization, join a society, and join other people and collaborate. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Spusiso. Thank you to also our young people who asked such wonderful, insightful questions. I will have to just close the question and answer session, but we do have a reflection session. We have a reflection session coming up right before we close off the session. It's just imperative that we at least get this video out so that you guys can all see. So I'm just going to play this quick video for everyone. This is what we are launching as part of today's exciting event. So happy that so many of you are still here and have stayed on. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen, and then from there I'll just be able to share the video with everyone. So with that, just share my screen. Okay. And just hold on. Okay, share. Alrighty, I'm just gonna press play. I hope you can hear it. Just need to make sure the audio is good.
I'd say during winter, because that's where people will be using their wood stoves, burning tires outside for, yeah, I say during the winter period, that's where that is big. Yeah.
I would say around winter, so that's where people opt for other energy resources like wood, like I've mentioned, because it's much more affordable than electricity. I don't know what they call those things, but then they pollute them somewhere near our village, yeah. Near whereby when you pass, we see those. So when the air comes, it causes disruption.
I would say during working hours, I think, as mentioned, because of these queries, I think at times at which staff members are on duty, I think that is the time when which the air pollution is a big.
They mostly do that stuff at night. So like around from 8 to 12, that's when you do it's a 24-hour cycle plan.
I can't tell really. I feel like it's the same throughout because we don't have a lot of like industries happening, businesses happening. It's just normal people burning dead, people. That's what affects like a lot of smoke from the dead. That's like it's the same throughout the year, I think.
I'd say everyone is affected, because there's not really a lot of movement or people migrating to Johannesburg. So basically everyone is around town. So yeah, everyone is pretty much affected.
I would say everyone, because children are there, adults are also there, also youth is also there. So I think everyone in the community would be affected by it. Yes.
I would say elderly people are. I'd say, yeah, elderly people are the ones that are mostly affected by the pollution.
Everyone, because we all live there, we all put there, so everyone is affected.
I think the elderly, because there's a lot of, in Actonville is a middle income area. A lot of people do walking and walk around in Actonville to go to the shops like ShopRite and those places. When they breathe the air, it's like bad for them, and there's a lot of schools in there, so there are kids walking around. So it affects the young and the elderly.
Everyone, especially the elderly, because we can say their lungs are no longer that strong as compared to the youth. But also the youth that are consuming substances are also at risk.
All righty. Thank you so much for allowing me to just give you a snapshot of some of the campaigning and some of the work that we've been putting in as a team to bring awareness to this, to launch this project. And this is our outcome. This is just something that we wanted to share with everyone in terms of how young people understand air pollution differently and have different experiences with air pollution based on where they stay, based on industry, based on waste management, based on all of those things. So thank you for just taking a moment to be here as part of that. And then the next thing that we're going to be doing now is we're going to just be digging into a quick reflection session, which I think we can just use like just 10 minutes of that time to get through some of the questions that young people had asked. I just ask that we keep these short and sweet, especially the responses to the questions to our speakers or to any young person in the room who feels fit to answer these. I'm just going to start with some of the questions that are in the comments. But not a lot of them, just 2 or 3. I do realize that we've missed a lot, but I just ask that we keep it to 30 seconds each because we are running late on time. So I'm going to start with one of the questions from the students. They said that knowing that petrol cars from the majority of South Africans knowing that petrol cars form the majority of South Africa's car market, what efforts are being made in development of electronic vehicles or even involving possible trade deals to secure more eco-friendly forms of transport? Does anyone want to answer this? Doesn't have to be the speakers. could be anyone who also just wants to speak on this. Just a 30-second response, short and sweet.
ESVs are quite expensive, so South Africa is moving towards ESVs, although it comes at a price. So it's going to take a lot of time.
Anyone there?
until
Mahlasedi, I see that your name is on the screen. Are you trying to answer?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Cheta?
We think your network is the issue.
Oh, sorry. My volume was off. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. I was saying that ESVs come at a price. It's going to take us a lot of time. South Africa is moving towards eco-friendly cars, but then it comes at a price. So it's going to take us quite a long time for us to finally get there, reach our destination. But South Africa is trying to move towards eco-friendly cars.
Alrighty, and then I see another one. How can people not associated with any school, institution, organization get involved in these kinds of initiatives? We also have a couple of programs here at the youth programs, and it's a great place to start in terms of building your knowledge, capacity building, and really getting involved in issues that are close to your heart, whether that's climate in general or air pollution specifically, or even looking at intersectionalities between how air pollution and how climate affects young people and maybe women as well on a broader scale, talking about intersectional issues and how they have an impact overall. So I would say that just to abuse my chairing rights here, that Youth at SAIA is a great place to start. We have developed youth statements. We are currently having a youth implementers for change that's running, but it's closing soon. I believe it closes tomorrow, where we're inviting young people to apply for micro grants and where they start their own little projects and have a proposal, and then they get a guided mentorship and funding so that they can run with these projects, and whether the theme is sustainability, advocacy, so on and so forth. So Youth at SAIA is a great place to start. And in lieu of Sibusiso also being here, the African Climate Alliance is also a really great place to also locate yourself as an activist and as a person wanting to be part of these types of initiatives. So I'm just going to go to the next question. And I think this should be the last one for the sake of time. America is withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. What does this then mean when it comes to climate change and dealing with it? If one of our speakers or even one of our youth cohorts can answer this, that would be great. I give the floor over.
Happy to just very briefly answer. I think, yeah, so that the withdrawal of America from the Paris Agreement is something that is happening at a global level. So the issues, while, they'll definitely filter down all the way to the local level, you won't really feel it much. And when I say that, I mean in terms of like, the funding that is available. I think as a young person in a local community, you wouldn't really feel those impacts much. But if you're working at a national level, a regional level, if you're working in health, because we saw Trump withdrew money from health as well, maybe that's so much. But I think the most important thing is that, change at the global level, very important. But equally as important is change at a local level. So I think what's happening at global level with Trump withdrawing is very sad. But that means that we have to push even harder, even stronger at the local level in order to make up for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, speakers. Thank you to our cohort for bringing up so many questions. Sincerely apologize that not everyone got to answer, not everyone got to really engage with the speakers, but please note that you have their names. If we can also maybe perhaps just as a team, just write some of their names on the side, even if you can find any one of us on LinkedIn, whether that's Busiso, whether that's Boitumelo, Mahlasedi, even anyone from the youth team, Awande Kumalo, or myself, Mponyamate, and get in contact, you're more than welcome to do so. So with that, we are nearing to the end of the session. I would like to just thank you all. Abulele is going to come in to do our closing. I would like to take a moment to thank you all for just your wonderful involvement, your interest, and your agency as young people. It is beautiful. We need more of it because we are here to really, really raise our voices and just show that we are part of the change. We are the future. And as such, nothing about us without us. So thank you for pulling up in numbers. Thank you for showing up with interest, with questions, and giving us a sense and an idea of all the things that have been on your mind and where we have yet to go in terms of like further capacitation. So yes, I do want to thank you for that. With that, I just want to encourage you all, especially those who haven't really gotten to interact in the degree that they would have liked, that we have upcoming events. We have an in-person workshop that's going to be taking place, I believe, in March. We also are on the hunt and on the lookout for Youth Air Champions. This is a young group of people as part of this campaign who are actively running air pollution campaigns in their communities. And we are looking for young people who can basically, who we can support and who we can mentor in developing these campaigns and making them impactful in their specific community regions. So for that, I just want to welcome you all to just be on the lookout, engage with our socials. There's going to be, like this campaign, a lot of promo and just keeping everyone up to date. So I just ask that you stay tuned because there's so much that's to come in that regard. And then we're also going to have a conference at the end of the year, which is going to be so exciting, so in person, and we get to meet all of these lovely virtual faces in person, which is going to be great. And also, I believe also the CAF workshop, the workshop that happens in March, I'm not sure, but I think that's also going to be in person. So yeah, I urge you all to just stay tuned, to be to stay tuned and to just keep following our socials and keep showing up for things that matter the most to you. For that, we are so, so appreciative. And once again, I just want to thank our speakers. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Dr. Raisa for taking your time out as a lecturer to join us and to inspire us. Thank you to Sbusiso for giving us a background about the Cancel Call campaign and how young people can go about using our institutions, using our very esteemed constitution to claim their rights, as per the highest law of the land. Thank you for Boitumelo for your legal background and just for your insights as to how young people can be involved and also raising, the problems of implementation. Thank you so much to Mahlasedi for also showing and showcasing the importance of teaching our young people from a young age to be more involved and to just be more active in that regard. And I also want to thank Eze too, our primary school learners as well, who have joined us, who formed part of these requests and just really showing the demand for wanting our municipalities, our organizations at large to be more inclusive in terms of grants and just finding a way for young people to truly be involved in that regard. So grateful. I hope I haven't missed anyone. Raisa, Sbusiso, Boitumelo, Ezetu, Mahlasedi, thank you so much. And to everyone who joined, who signed in, who showed interest, thank you so much. I will be passing it on to Abulele, who will be doing the closing. But on my side, goodbye as your program manager. Abulele, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. This has been such a great webinar, but interesting and also lively. And we as Youth at Saya and Breathe Cities would like to thank you so much for joining us and hope that you continue joining us as we go on this journey. So we encourage you youth as young people to join us in this journey and this campaign, and to be more active in trying to mitigate potential actions or mitigate air pollution in your area. So walk this journey with us, be an air champion, join our campaigns, follow us on social media, and stay updated as we try fight air pollution from a youth perspective. So we need your voices. I'd like to thank you again for joining us, and I hope to see you guys soon and engage with as many of you as possible. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us and all our stakeholders.
Thank you, Abulele. Thanks to the team as well.